Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm Robin Craig, and you're watching Robin Craig Live, broadcasting from Houston, Texas, where it is nippy tonight. I log on, if you're new to the show, half an hour early so that I can catch up with everybody in the chat room, and they're laughing at me because I'm cold and it's 40 degrees. My fingers, I can hardly feel them. It's 40 degrees. And of course, Julia in Kansas said it's 11. Tom up in Chicago said it's 20. Nyla in Kansas said it's 26 with a 0 wind chill factor. They're all laughing at me, but it's 40 and it's cold. So it's the kind of night where I'm really happy that I've got some hot lighting because that's going to make me be able to get through the show. Now, if you're just tuning in, this show is to help those who are widowed and grieving. And tonight we've got a really great topic. We're talking about dealing with the holidays. And my special guest is Tom Zuba. He's up in Chicago. And I'm going to be talking to him in a moment. But first, it's time for the Critter Update. Now, you guys know that in 2010, I captured 4 possums, 4 raccoons, and a cat. I let them all go down to the reservoir, except for the cat, which of course I let go in my yard. Well, 2011, things had been really quiet, and all I had to report was my rescuing a frog out of the pool and the little frog that was thinking it was raining when I turned on my outside shower. I took a shower with a frog, whatever. But I thought, you know what? I'm going to just sail through this season, no problem. About 4 weeks ago, I caught possum number 5. And then the following week, I caught possum number 6. And then I thought, okay, that was good. And I thought, well, maybe they were relatives because they were relatively small. Their bodies were about this long. That doesn't count the tail. But I mean, I've caught some big ones. So these were young ones, not little babies, but they were young. And I was feeling really empowered, like this is great. And then I thought, I'm hearing some noise in my attic. So I had caught possum number 6 with chicken fried steak, potato salad, and coleslaw. When I first put some cat food out there, I didn't catch it for like a couple of days, so I thought, okay, this is like all out war. So I went to the fridge, I got out some pot roast and a lot of pasta. And I have to put it on a bowl. You should see me. I'm literally a reality show here. I have to put it on a broom, and I stick the broom in there because it's got to go to the back of the cage. They have to step on this little flat area in the back of the cage, and that's what makes the door go down. So I actually heard the door go down, but I had the TV on, and I didn't know what the noise was because I've never heard the door go down. I just thought, what was that? And you know how it is. If you don't hear it again, you forget about it. Well, the next day, I went out there, and possum number 7 was in the cage. And I've gotten really crafty with catching these guys. I don't just put the food in the end of the cage. I put it in the end of the cage, and then I took the other pasta and I sprinkled it along in little steps outside the cage and then, of course, inside. So they start eating, they're in the cage, and then by the time they are so fat and full at the end, the door lowers and that's it. So a friend came over. Cindy was not around, so a friend came over and we were going to take him down to the reservoir following my standard photo shoot. If you see me on Facebook, you've seen pictures of them. It's crazy to think I have photo shoots with possums in cages, but it's gotten to be kind of fun for me. Well, wouldn't you know, after all this drought we've had, it started raining. So letting a possum out in the rain was really an insane thing to do, but he very happily took off. I saw an old tire that someone had dumped, and he went underneath it. So he looked happy, and Lord knows he was well fed because he ate the cat food that was still in there, the pot roast and the pasta. And I've been naming these guys. Cindy started off naming the first one with a name that started with a P because possum starts with an O, but the O is silent. So we've had Pete the possum, Percy, Penny, Penelope, Pablo, Perry, and the last one is Pasta. They're all happy down at the reservoir, and if I had to guess, they're probably trying to find their way back here, but I hope it takes them a long time. So anyhow, that's enough of that topic. Now, I wanted to share a little story with you because before I know Tom's on standby and he's got so much to say, but I did a show not too long ago about empowerment. And there was a situation that happened here in Houston. It wasn't with a widow, but it was so empowering. I thought I just have to share it with you. A woman named Mary Ann Wooten, age 84, said that she was working on her flower bed on a Saturday afternoon, and a man came claiming to be a utility worker. So he approached her. Her husband was sitting out in the yard with her. He took them behind the garage, back behind the house, and he said that he needed to install some electrical wires. Well, of course, that was enough to distract her while three other men entered the house and began ransacking it. Well, she was smarter than these guys. The one guy that was behind the house with Marianne and her husband, he was writing something and his pen wouldn't work. So he said he would be back. He went around to the front and Marianne thought, well, I've got a pen that works. I'll just go in the house and get it. So she goes in her house. All of a sudden she hears all of this commotion. She sees these men, and rather than fainting or falling out or screaming or running, Marianne goes over and gets her red hatchet. And she starts going around in the air with it, and she yells at the guy, "You all do not need to be in this house. You've done a lot of damage. Get yourself out of here." And then she admitted that what she should have told them is, "I hope you burn in hell." Feisty little thing, isn't she? Well, although money and jewelry was missing, the thieves ran away. So I wanted to share the story because even at 84, we can empower ourselves to take action. And I love that she did that, and I love that nobody got hurt. But I wanted to mention that because the fire marshal here in Harris County in Houston, he has said that real fire marshals always carry identification, and he says that it's not common for people to pose as fire marshals. They normally pose as policemen. So I just wanted to alert people that as our economy worsens and as the holidays are here and people are struggling financially, they're getting really crafty and creative with ways to get your money and to rob you. So always ask for ID or just don't even open the door. And if you see anybody suspicious, call 911. And in a worst case scenario, have your hatchet or whatever weapon you have ready. So go, Marianne. I'm proud of you, girl. Okay, now we're going to get Tom on the phone. Tom has been on the show a few times. He is a grief guide, an author, and an inspirational speaker. And very sadly, he lost his 18-month-old daughter, Erin, suddenly in 1990. And then in 1999, his beautiful wife, Trish, who was 43, suddenly died on New Year's Day. And Tom was left in his grief to raise two boys alone. And then his sweet Rory, his 13-year-old son, died of brain cancer in 2005. So Tom has been through so much, but he's the most wonderful, kind, motivating, and inspirational guy I know. I love him to pieces. So let's just get him on the phone right now.
Very cool, Robin.
Hey, how are you, Tom?
I'm great. I'm great. How are you doing?
Well, I'm cold. It's 40 degrees.
Please stop that. You're not cold.
I know. Tell my fingers and my toes that. Of course, I may not be dressed appropriately for the weather, but I know you're pretty cold up there in Chicago.
Yes, yes, it is. And actually, I was in the city today, and it was windy and a little bit rainy, and it's supposed to get down to 20 degrees tonight.
Oh my gosh. Well, tomorrow night, we are looking for our first temperature in the freezing range. It's supposed to get down to 31. So my challenge will be remembering to wrap the plants. That's always a toughie. But I'm looking.
Well, let me ask you this, though. I mean, how warm is it during the day?
Well, it's gotten, it's been around in the 50s. It hasn't been too bad. It's not like you want to go out and try to suntan or anything, but it hasn't been too bad. You do need a jacket for sure. But 40, 31, So if you invite me to come and see you, I'll be prepared because I know that it's snowing in your area, and I know that it's snowing in a lot of our viewers' areas. So I admire you guys for weathering that, but my Texas blood just doesn't work so well.
I understand.
Okay, so Tom, tonight we're dealing with a topic that so many people are concerned about. It's coping with the holidays. Once you have lost someone, we all know that all of the special days, the birthdays, the anniversaries, New Year's Eve, Valentine's Days, all of those days are difficult. But the holiday season specifically is tough because that's when you want to be with your loved ones. And when you've lost your loved one, you're in pain. So what do we need to do? You sent me a list of 10 tips, and I want to go over those because it's just something that other people don't really talk about. So we struggle to get through it. We hide our feelings. Sometimes we do things that we don't feel like doing, and I think it's important to coach everybody a little bit tonight with some ideas on how to deal with the holidays. The first thing that you have is to think about what will bring you the most peace this holiday season. I love that. Tell us your thoughts.
Well, the reality is that the only one that knows what you need to heal, because I firmly believe that people can heal from the devastation of the death of a loved one, but the only one that knows what you need is you.
Yes.
I don't know what you need.
Yes.
Your family, they don't know what you need.
Yes.
But you do. And sometimes I think half of the trick is being willing and being able to spend quiet time with yourself to kind of listen to your intuition, listen to the voice within so you can really discern what is it that I need. And with the holidays coming up, for some of us, keeping every single tradition intact exactly the way that we've always done it, that's what they need. But for other people, they might want to just tweak some of the old traditions a little bit, holding on to some of the old, but bringing in some new ones. And that's going to work for them. But there might be people who just totally want to get rid of all the old traditions, every reminder of everything they ever did for this Christmas. It's not to say that next Christmas or 5 Christmases from now, they might not reach back to some of the old traditions, but they've decided that what's going to help them best this Christmas is to start from scratch. Do it. And then my favorite one, and it's remarkable to me that we need to be given permission to do this, but honestly, if you feel like the very best thing for you this holiday season is to hop on a plane, fly to the Caribbean, and totally skip the holidays, that is perfectly A-okay for you to do. Because like I said, you are the only one that knows what you need to do to heal, and I give you permission to do that.
So, Tom, how do people deal with their family's reaction to this? Because I totally agree with you in that we need to give permission to allow ourselves to do what makes us feel great. And sometimes when you don't do the traditions because you don't feel like it, you still don't feel right because everything is so odd because you've always done the traditional stuff. So when you decide to go away, you're thinking, okay, this will be something that'll be good for me. But then your family says, how can you leave the rest of us? We're alive and we're still here. How do you deal with that?
Well, before we go on, I want to just remind folks that all of these tips are on my website, so you don't have to write them down. I mean, you can go to tomzuba.com and you can print these out. To your question, Robin, over and over and over again, it's almost universal in this country. I hear people say, my family doesn't understand me. My family isn't supporting me. My family isn't there for me. My family is causing me more pain than they realize. That is kind of a universal theme. We have really high expectations. I know I did. That the people that, we love and the people that love us, that they should know better, that they should know what we need and what we want. But they don't. Unless you've walked this walk, you don't have a clue. And even though I've walked this walk 3 times, some of the days I know what I need to heal, but I certainly don't know what any of you all need to heal. So it's one of those things where are you going to be true to yourself? Are you going to care for yourself because you're worth it? Or are you going to abandon yourself, totally abandon yourself, cause yourself more pain when you're already in the midst of a very painful holiday for a lot of people? And are you going to try to make family and friends happy, which I think the older we get, we realize it's impossible. So, kind of by default, I would say, look in the mirror, figure out what you need, and charge straight ahead and take care of yourself.
Yes, and Tom, I'm looking at the chat room, and Sherry in California said that when her husband died, she took a trip at Christmas and went to Hawaii by herself, and that yes, her family did freak out until she told them that it was really good for her, and then they accepted it. And she had never gone anywhere by herself. So I think the point is, Sherry, thank you for sharing that story, because I think the point is that even if your loved ones freak out because you make a decision that they don't understand, in the end, when they see that the decision you made has been good for you, then they're more understanding of it. So that's beautiful. And you know what, Tom, let me take just a moment to announce something. You know that I love giving away beanitos here on the show, and I've got a big bag. Here they are. They're so good. My favorite are the black bean chipotle barbecue. They're corn-free, gluten-free, high fiber, 4 grams of protein, and they are certified low glycemic, which is so important in controlling your weight and your blood sugar. And somehow this package is opened. I don't know how, but since they're open, I might as well just eat one, right? They're so good. The reason I wanted to talk about that, I'm giving away a case of these tonight, and you can go to my website, robincraigdirect.com. The 5th email is going to win a case of them, and I want to announce last week's winner, and that is Sherry Bogelin of Fullerton, California. Congratulations, Sherry. You're getting an entire case of them. That's why I secretly asked for your address on Facebook. So I'm really excited about that. And they're so tasty. You're going to have a case of them. You can share them with your friends. So I'm going to put up my website so that you can email me. The 5th email is going to win another case. And also, I'm going to put up Tom, who is my guest tonight. I'm going to put up his email. So, Tom, let's keep talking. We know the clock is ticking. Now, you talk about making new traditions. You talk about going to the Caribbean, doing whatever it is that makes you happy. I totally agree with that. You also talk about don't expect anyone to mention the name of the person you love who died, that is your job, that people look to you to determine whether or not it's safe to talk about that person. And I love that. Expound upon that, because you're so right about that.
Well, Robin, I wish it wasn't true. I wish all of us would go to Christmas Eve dinner and Christmas Day dinner and be with our family and be with our friends. And I wish everyone in the room would come up to us and hug us and say, oh, I'm thinking about Trish. I'm remembering John. I have a little story here that I want to share with you that I hope will, bring a smile to your face. But that is not going to happen. We set ourselves up to be hurt and to be wounded. The truth of the matter is that for at least 90% of us, we will spend the holiday season and no one will ever mention the name of the person that we love that died. Why don't they do it? I'm not exactly sure. I refer to them as being ignorantly innocent. But what I've come up with are a couple of ideas that are subtle or not so subtle, ways that we can bring the people that we love into the celebration. And one of them is either serve or bring the person that you love's favorite dish to the holiday get-together. My wife loved, XYZ, so this is what I'm bringing to the dinner, and mention it. Say that was Trisha's favorite recipe. What do you think? Do you like it? That opens the door. People then know it's okay to talk about this person. Another thought is bring a couple of your favorite pictures of the person that died. And if you're gathering with family, if you have a picture of your spouse, with your parents or with your siblings, include those. And, pass them around. Try to get a discussion going. And ask the host or the hostess if you can kind of lean them up against the table centerpiece. And then you're literally bringing the person smack in the center of the room. I think if nothing else, it's going to make you feel good because you're being proactive. You're not waiting, for someone to open their heart to you.
Yes, and another thing that people can do is to get a stocking or to use the old stocking that their loved one had and to go ahead and hang it up and maybe invite people to write a little note of something that they remember that your loved one said, and then you can put them in the stocking, and then maybe after dinner when everybody's sitting around, you can read them. And I agree with you, Tom, because people are afraid if they mention the name of our loved one or start to talk about them that it will make us cry. And it might make us cry, but in the end, we're happy when people mention our loved ones. But I've also found exactly what you said, that people are afraid to open the discussion. If you open the discussion and you say, I remember when my husband said this or that, then people will join in the conversation. And in the end, that's really what we want. We want to keep their memory alive.
Exactly. One of the things I hear most often is, I don't want the person I love to be forgotten.
Yes.
And if nobody's mentioning them by name, particularly at a holiday like Christmas, it's very easy to go to the place where, these people don't remember him, they don't care, he's completely forgotten. A really, really subtle, I think easy, fun way to bring the person into the room is, what was their favorite music? Bring a couple of their favorite CDs and just have that music playing in the background when the family's gathered. I mean, I think that's a really non-threatening, gentle way to bring them right in the middle of the celebration.
Yes. Yes. I love that. And I love, too, that you suggest playing music that your loved one liked. That's great.
Exactly.
Yes, I know that I found some of my husband's CDs after he died, and I would put them on, and as soon as his favorite song would come on, I would just start grinning, thinking, oh, I'm picturing him dancing to that. He would just blast it as loud as he could. And so you're right in that we need to continue doing things that make us remember our husband and give people the freedom to share their memories as well. Okay, you also say...
Let me just add this. It just breaks my heart to think that people will be gathering up all the courage that they have, and going, out in public on Christmas, with a broken heart, just waiting and hoping and yearning for the time when someone will mention their wife or their husband.
Yes.
And, 5 hours passes and no one's ever mentioned that person's name. I mean, that breaks my heart. So be prepared. In all probability, nobody will. It's up to you to bring them into that celebration.
Yes, and people deal with their grief so differently. Where you may feel a need to talk about it and say your loved one's name, other people think just don't say anything and act like it never happened. But I think for everybody that I speak to, we all want to keep that memory alive. We want to hear the name. And we want to hear stories. We want to hear things that our loved ones said. But you're right. We need to bring it up first so that other people are comfortable in speaking their name and sharing with us. That's great.
Because the truth of the matter is, if we don't bring the person's name up, no one else is going to, and we're going to end up at the end of the day being really, really hurt.
Yes, you're so right about that. Okay, you say plan a special evening for close family and friends when you remember. Ask everyone to bring a favorite photo and write down a special memory. Set time aside to sit in a circle and share the photos and memories. That's great. Have you done that, Tom?
I have done it, and this one I love because, let's be honest, um, many of us didn't choose our family members. You know, it's the group of people that we were born into, but we did choose our friends. And my hunch is, you know, if we gathered 5 or 6 or 8 of our, you know, dearest, closest friends and asked them if they would join us in an evening of remembering,
Mm.
you know, bring a photo that you have that I may not have seen. Think of a special memory that's, you know, just yours and my spouse's that I might not even be aware of. Because the truth of the matter is, you know, there's not going to be any more photographs of our spouses. There's not going to be any more new events. But
Yes.
there are people out there that can help bring more pieces of the puzzle that
Yes.
we were never aware of. So that's what this is about. It's tapping into the people that we really, really love to help us really shade in all the nuances and details of, you know, our beloved spouse.
I know. I'm watching the chat room. And Kathy, thank you for joining us and thank you for sharing. She's just saying that sometimes you mention your loved one's name and other people walk away. What do you do about that, Tom?
I don't think it's just sometimes. That is a very, very common occurrence. What do you do about that? You make a decision. Am I going to be angry at that person? Am I going to allow that person's action to hurt me, you know, to wound me when I'm already vulnerable and fragile? Like I said, I call those people ignorant and innocent. They
Mm.
do not know any better,
Wow.
period. And then I move on.
Wow. So basically what I'm really hearing is we just can't get too caught up in worrying about what other people think and feel, that we really need to take care of ourselves when we're in the midst of grief and we're already struggling with the holidays. Just write people off.
Well, I wouldn't say write people off, but this is what that I would say. If I'm tiptoeing around everybody else, if I'm trying to make everybody else happy, if I'm giving everyone else the benefit of the doubt, I'm abandoning myself, and I'm
Mm.
causing myself pain on top of pain on
Wow.
top of pain. And I can do that as long as I want. And I will tell you that I did until I got damn sick of the pain. And then I thought, you know what? I'm going to start taking care of myself.
That's so great. I'm looking at the chat room, and Sherry had said that she had a friend's niece send her a photograph 2 years after her husband died. She had never ever seen it, and now she uses it as her Facebook profile picture. And I think that's wonderful. And you know, that's something that all of us really should think about. A lot of us go to events and we take pictures. But what we should focus on is if that person dies, we should dig around and find those photographs and send it to the closest loved ones. Because what a beautiful gift to get a picture 2 years after you lose your spouse that you've never seen before. That's a wonderful gift, Sherry. Thank you for sharing that. I love that idea.
You know, Robin, I love that idea too. And imagine if someone went through their videotape and
Oh,
copied, you know, video of your spouse so that you could hear their voice again. You could see them in a situation that maybe you had forgotten or weren't even aware of.
Yes.
I'm going to add something else. I mean, I believe that, as I said, I believe that we can all heal. Robin told you all a little bit about the last 20 years of my life, and I will tell you, I live a full, joy-filled life. I am a very, very happy person. I thank God I'm alive.
Yes.
But I have to work at creating this, and part of it is taking care of ourselves, taking care of myself, and asking people to give me what I need. And what would be so wrong about printing up a little insert if you all send out Christmas cards and saying the pieces of you can help me build the pieces of this puzzle of the person that I loved. Could you spend a couple of minutes looking through your photographs, and as a gift to me this holiday season, would you send me a copy of Trish that I've never seen before? I think half of the people would be more than happy to do that.
I know. I think what I'm really hearing is that we have to be more vocal, and that's hard to do because when we're grieving, we have a tendency to shrink and withdraw, and we isolate and alienate ourselves, and we're feeling so many things, and we understand that people don't get it, and sometimes we feel like they don't care, so we stifle ourselves. But it might be beneficial if we can bring ourselves to speak up and to ask people, do you have any pictures? Do you have any video of my spouse? Or I'm sure there are people who are watching the show who have lost other loved ones as well. And I've lost the majority of my family. And Tom, you've lost 2 children as well as your wife. And I think that maybe if we're more vocal, maybe some people won't care, but maybe there will be people who care, and they will take the time to come up with these great photos as in Sherry's case. That's so great.
And Robin, let me add, it is one of the greatest paradoxes of life, which I really don't understand, and I've given up trying to understand it. But the truth of the matter for most of us is that at the time in our life when we desperately need people to rush in and care for us, to feed us and tuck us in at night and rub our feet and bring us a nice, bottle of gin or a cup of tea, most people want as far away from us as possible, and we are left on our own. I don't get it, but it's the truth.
I know. And
so we can either kind of marinate and stew in bitterness and disappointment and anger and sadness, or we can, open our eyes and say, well, this is the way it is, and I cannot depend on anybody else. So if I'm going to whip my life into shape, I got to do it myself.
Yes. And we also have to realize that people tiptoe around those who are grieving. And it's because they don't know what to do. A lot of times they're inexperienced. A lot of times they're not good communicators. A lot of times that person that you're around is grieving in a different kind of way. And to just be able to be vocal, even if people don't do what we need them to do, at least we know we did our part in saying, this is what I need. And maybe we'll have some better luck. So that's a great tip. All right, scooting along, you say, remember that it's okay, even healthy, to cry. And I so agree with that.
I'm just a huge fan of crying. Someone that I love has died. The appropriate, healthy, natural, normal response is to cry. If we want to heal, we have to cry.
Yes.
So honestly, it just kills me when people apologize for crying or say, I don't want to cry. I don't want to cry. Yes, someone you love died. Cry. Get everything out of your body.
Yes.
And if people are uncomfortable with you're crying, so what?
Yes, you're exactly right. And the other thing is And I say this all the time, that we are uncomfortable with people crying in front of us. And it's painful to see people cry, but we need to accept that it is a physical release. To me, it's sort of like an exhaust pipe, that we just get so full of grief that we have to cry just to get it out. And eventually we're exhausted, and it's painful to cry, that terrible gut-wrenching cry from the bottom of your stomach, where your whole body is just exhausted and your eyes are like this big at the end of it. But that's what we have to do, and in order to get better. So I think for people who are watching the show, if you're around anybody that's crying, rather than say, oh, don't cry, it's better to just hug the person crying and to say, honey, you're going to be okay. Because in reality, that's what we need to hear. Just like if you're sick or you're hurting, people will come to you and say, you're going to be okay, hang on. It's the same thing with grieving. Just say you're going to be okay and allow people to cry. That's beautiful, Tom. I love that.
And let me suggest something here. I personally, I love to see people cry. I love to see them cry. I'm really proud of them when they cry. And I hope that they, sob and wail and get it out and get it out. And I'm going to suggest that those of us that are comfortable crying ourselves, if we're comfortable with that own physical response, then we're comfortable when we're in the presence of other people that cry.
Yes.
And those of us that are not comfortable with our own crying, when we see someone else that's crying, that makes us uncomfortable. And we try to get them to stop as quickly as they possibly can. And in reality, it has nothing to do with them. It has everything to do with our discomfort with our own crying. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, it does. Absolutely. And, I fully understand that when little kids are crying, they have an immediate need that can usually be rectified fairly easily. And we want to make little kids not cry because they've got a problem that we can typically fix. But that's not the same way it is when you're an adult. And it's certainly not that way when you are grieving. So it's important to get that out. Once again, I'm always checking in with the chat room. And Mac, thank you for joining us. Haven't seen you lately, but I'm glad you're here. Mac is a widower, as you are, Tom. And I want to also clarify that this show is not just for widows. It's for anybody that's lost a loved one. I specialize with widows and widowers. We deal with the same grief. We just may have to learn different things when a man loses a woman or a woman loses a man. But this show is for everybody who has suffered a loss, because there are a lot of commonalities across the board. So I'm thrilled that you guys are here. Diane, I'm delighted that you are here as well. And if you just tuned in, you're watching Robin Craig Live, broadcasting from Houston, Texas, where I am speaking with my dear friend Tom Zuba. I've got his website up, TomZuba, ZUBA.com. And I've also got my website up, robincraigdirect.com, because I am giving away a case of Beanitos. Let me hold them up again. Hope I don't spill them because I already opened the package for obvious reasons. But I'm giving away a case to the 5th person to email me at robincraigdirect.com. So, okay, Tom, now scooting along, you also say that remember it's okay to stay in bed, that you will get out when you are ready and able. And I love that. You're so correct with that. People wanted to force us out of bed.
I cannot comprehend this, because one of the things that people say to me most often is, all I want to do is stay in bed. I want to spend Christmas in bed. Or, I wanted to spend the entire weekend just in bed. And I will say, have you ever spent a full day in bed? 99.999% of the people say, no, I've never done it. And I guess what I want to reiterate is, I believe that what happens to us because of the way family, friends, and society treat us, 7 to 10 days after the death is over, is we begin to kind of breathe in this notion that it wasn't so bad. It wasn't really that horrible. What we've just lived through is not that bad. And I'm here to
Yes.
So if your body physically needs to stay in bed for 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, do it. Do it. You deserve that. You've earned it. And you will get out of bed when you're ready. And honestly, if someone says what I'm going to do on December 24th is get in bed and I'm not going to get out until December 26th, for some people that may be the healthiest, kindest, most gentle thing they could ever do for themselves. And you deserve
Yes.
it.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. I'm watching the chat room again, and Sherry says that if she's having a bad day, she stays in her room, in her bed, reading and on her computer all day. She gets up to change the laundry, but that's about it. And it's okay to do that. I love that. And I'm also glad to see, too, Kathy lost a child, and I'm so glad that you guys are here because regardless of who you have lost, when you've suffered a close loss, you grieve and you deal with a lot of the same issues. So I'm glad that we've got a really diversified audience. And I invite you guys to watch us every Tuesday night and to join the chat room because there are so many great tips and so much information that people share, not to mention the camaraderie that we have between one another. And Wild Rose Ranch, thank you so much for tuning in. I'm really happy to see you tonight as well. It's beautiful. Everyone's just sharing stories. It's amazing. So, and that's cute. Max says that he can't stay in bed all day because his dog insists on going out occasionally. That's hilarious. And you know what? Sometimes having a dog is great for that reason because they make you perform when otherwise you wouldn't. But bottom line is that if you need to stay in bed, it's okay. Give yourself permission to stay in bed because eventually your body will ache. You can only stay in there so long, and eventually you'll decide to come out, but it should be on your time, not everybody else's. All right, Tom, you also say it's okay to smile or even laugh a little bit and to know that by doing so, you're not being disloyal. And I think that's the key here, that you're not being disloyal to your loved one just because you smiled or laughed.
Absolutely, Robin. There are folks out there who believe that it's their sadness, it's their loneliness, even their anger that keep them connected to the person that they love that died. And the fear is that if they release the anger, if they release the sadness, if all of a sudden they begin building a life and they're no longer lonely, that somehow the connection that they have to the person that they love will lessen and that they'll lose that person, they'll lose touch with that person. And there is nothing that could be farther from the truth. Because
Uh-huh.
when we're able to begin to open our eyes to life again, and when we're
Yes.
able to feel the sun on our skin again, and when we're able to laugh, and when we're able to smile, then we create this opening where the person that we love can rush in, and even though we think that the relationship will lessen, the relationship will actually strengthen. I am just a firm believer that we will always, always, always have a relationship with the people that we love that died. And
Yes.
we're the ones that will decide, does that relationship bring me peace and
Yes.
joy, or does that relationship bring me pain?
Yes.
And as long as we're holding on to,
Yes.
sadness and bitterness and resentment and loneliness and anger, it's going to bring us pain. So
Yes.
it's okay to smile.
Yes. And I'm famous for saying we just lost our loved one. We did not lose our sense of humor. And that funny stuff can still be funny. It may not be in the first week or the first month, but as you begin to heal, you will find that laughter feels good and it's also a necessary part of living. And sometimes I think that when people see us laugh, they think, oh, you're doing great. You're just breezing right through the grief process. It's just that something was funny at that moment. It doesn't take away from the grief at all. It's just something added to it. And we all know that laughter is the best medicine. If you can find anything to laugh about, go for it. But I do hate that people oftentimes misconstrue laughter as saying that we're okay when we're really not. We just found something that struck us as funny for a moment.
I agree with you completely. I
Yes.
agree with you completely. And it's another one of those situations where if you haven't walked the walk, I mean, honestly, how would you know? I have a very clear memory of standing at the funeral home in front of my wife's dead body in the casket, laughing hysterically with a friend of mine. We were reminiscing about something that happened 10 years ago. And yes, I was heartbroken. My wife is dead, but I was able to laugh too because it was really, really funny.
Yes. I agree with you. I'm reading that Widow's Ring in the chat room said that she felt really guilty the first time she laughed out loud. I assume that she lost her husband and she felt really guilty, but it was such a relief after all the tears. And just like tears are a release, I think laughter is a different kind of a release, and we need to laugh and we don't need to feel guilty about it. It's like it doesn't take away anything from our loved one, and it doesn't mean that we're disloyal. So that's excellent. All right.
And if I can add, I
Go
also
ahead.
think for so many of us, even if we knew that our spouse was in the process of dying or if they were going to die, I think that the actuality of the death is so stunning and it's so shocking that we think, I will never laugh again. There is no way on earth I will
Yes.
ever laugh again. I think
Yes.
that's a real, true belief. So, like you said, when I find myself actually laughing, I'm startled and I'm thinking, is this appropriate or not? How could this be? I just knew in the depths of my heart I would never laugh again, and here I am laughing again.
Yes. It's funny how all of this works because I remember years ago, my mom has been deceased for 32 years. And I remember when she died, she was just my best friend, and I thought about her constantly. And I remember saying, will there ever be a day that I don't think about her? And then one day, that time period came, and then I felt guilty, like, oh my gosh, I didn't think about her, like something was wrong with that. But that's normal.
Yeah, that's interesting. Both of my parents are both still alive. Um, my daughter died in 1990, my wife in 99, my son in 2005. And maybe because I still am raising my 16-year-old son, so the family unit is an integral part of my every waking moment. I will say that I think of my daughter, my wife, and my son many, many times every day. And that's fine with me. I'm happy about that. But I do. I think of them many times every single day.
Wow. That's so amazing. You're blessed to still have your folks. I've been an adult orphan for 14 years. My mom 32 years ago, my dad 14 years ago, and my family has just dropped off one by one by one, and then my husband was the icing on the cake 6 years ago. So even my dog died 2 years ago. So, death is a recurring theme, but through all the death, I have found my life mission, which is helping people learn about death and learn about grieving and to learn how to deal with it. And that's what we're doing tonight on Rob and Craig Live with Tom Zuba, who is talking to us from Chicago. So, Tom, I like your next idea, which is to buy yourself a gift, to wrap it, and write a note to you from the person you have lost. How did you come up with that?
I was really, really, really smart when I got married. I married a woman who loved to give me presents. She loved to spend money, and she loved to spend it on me.
I love it.
So I was very, very accustomed. Every Christmas, every Father's Day, every year it was my birthday. I mean, to getting like 8 to 12, 13 beautifully wrapped, incredible gifts. So that first Christmas comes around, my kids are 3 and 7. I didn't get any Christmas presents. And that was hurtful, that was really, really painful. So I thought, I've kind of earned this. I need to start taking care of myself. So from then on, every year I buy myself connecting kind of thing that I do. Plus, I mean, I love to open presents.
Well, I do too. Can you share what you've written to yourself from her?
Oh, of course, of course, of course. There's just someone asked me earlier in the chat room about a book, and I don't have a book published yet. But when I do, is it ever going to be wowzer?
I
My
know
wife
it will.
died on January 1st, and that Christmas she gave me a book of Irish Christmas stories, and she was perfectly healthy. We thought. There was no suggestion whatsoever that she'd be dead in a week. And I so clearly remember opening this book of Irish Christmas stories, and she had written a little inscription in it. And it said, "Dear Tom, thank you for giving me everything I've ever wanted, and then giving it to me all over again." And it startled me. I mean, the depth and the beauty. So I remember just sitting there, and I read it over again. I just really wanted to take it in. And like I said, she died 7 days later. So in retrospect, I really felt like it was a message from the depths of her soul saying, hey, buddy, don't have any regrets. You gave me everything I ever wanted, and then you gave it to me all over again. And I do think that has helped me in my healing because I have no regrets. I have no regrets about our relationship together. So it's a long way of getting to answer your question. When I write things to myself, it's a reminder of, what a great husband I was and what a great father I am. What an incredible job I'm doing of continuing the legacy of the family that we created.
So, I know how I am when I open gifts, and I wonder if I try this with my own self. I'm trying to picture, like, do you look at it and you hold the box and you hold it up and shake it and go, oh, I wonder what's in here. Do you do the whole process before you open it?
Sometimes I do, but you have to be really, really careful, and you have to get yourself something that's magnificent, something that's extravagant, and something that's, beyond the beyond, that really, that lights you up. Be extravagant, be indulgent. You are worth it.
I know that's a really cute idea. So maybe that's something we can all do. We'll buy ourselves a gift. We'll put a note in it and write what we think our loved one would write. That's a super idea, Tom. Okay, tip number 9 says, buy someone less fortunate than you a gift. I love that.
All any of us have to do is look around. Just look around, and regardless of what you're living with right now, I promise you, there are, if we look globally, there are tens of thousands of people that would trade their life with any of us in a heartbeat. I remember when my son Rory was dying. He was on our sofa and losing weight on a day-to-day basis. And I think it was right around one of the huge disasters. It might have been Katrina. But I remember thinking, many, many, many of these people who have lost absolutely everything would trade places with me. It would be sheerly delightful for them to have one of their relatives alive, laying on the sofa, dying of brain cancer. So, if you look around, you can realize how blessed you really are, and what better way to do that than to tangibly, buy someone else a gift. It gets us out of our own story for a little bit.
Yes, and you're right. It was Katrina because my husband died in 2005, and it took me almost 4 months to get his autopsy results because there were so many bodies that had been sent from Louisiana, where Katrina hit the hardest, to Houston, and it was terrible. So yes, it definitely was Katrina. Yeah, that's crazy. Okay, I know our clock is ticking. The last tip that you have is to light a candle. What is the significance of that?
As Robin said, folks, my daughter died, my wife died, and my son died. And it's very, very clear to me that I am a messenger of hope. I'm
Yes.
a messenger of hope.
Yes.
And all of us will survive this Christmas. It will be
Yes.
December 26th. It will be December 28th.
Yes.
So light a candle. To me, a candle represents life. It represents possibility.
Yes.
It represents hope.
Yes.
And when we look at a candle, the candle brings us right into the present moment. So many of us, we're living in the past, particularly after someone that we love dies, or we're fearfully kind of gazing into the future. How will I survive? How will I do this? But the only place that healing takes place, the only place that healing takes place is in the present moment.
Yes.
And by lighting a candle and looking at that candle, we're kind of jarred into the present moment. And for most of us, the present moment isn't that bad, really. It's really pretty A-okay. It's when we flip into the past or we flip into the future
Yes.
where, it all seems like it's falling apart.
Yes. Yes, you're right. I absolutely love that. Well, Tom, you're wonderful. You know, I adore you. You've been on a number of times, and you know I'm always going to have you back, and you're so inspirational. And for everybody, if you're watching the archived version later on, I want to make sure that everybody knows they can find you at tomzuba, ZUBA.com. And keep us posted on all of your ventures, and we are definitely going to be looking forward to the book. Thank you for being with us tonight, Tom. Have a great evening.
Thank you, Robin, and I hope you have a great Christmas, too.
Thank you, sweetie. Good night.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Oh, my goodness. Tom is just like the greatest guy. I love him to pieces. And I hope that the show tonight has made a difference for everybody. I wanted to add a couple of things, which are if you are able to donate money to a worthy cause, sometimes you donate to an organization that surrounds the illness that your spouse or your loved one died from. I think that that makes you feel happy when you can donate something on behalf of your loved one. And I'm a big advocate of exercising. Not everybody is physically able to do that, but if you are, we all know that exercising gives your body endorphins, which create a feeling of well-being. And also, if you're eating a lot of food over the holidays, it can also help you keep from having a big weight gain. And feel free to ask people to share the stories about your loved ones. You know, don't hold back. The worst they can do is say no, and then you're back where you started. But maybe they'll have a story to share, and you'll feel a lot better from it. And plan to be with people who make you feel good. You know, not everybody can make you feel great, and it's okay to be around people who make you feel good. The holidays are tough any way you slice it, but in the end, we're gonna all be okay. Now, don't forget to look at my website, robincraigdirect.com, and the fifth email, you can say anything, Benitos, or I love watching you eat Benitos on the show, whatever you want to say, just use the word Benitos, and I'm going to give away a case of these to some lucky winner. Sherry Bogelin in Fullerton, California won a case last week. Congratulations again, Sherry. And I hope that you guys will tell others about my show and to share the link because there, as we all know, not a lot of places where we can turn to learn about grief and to understand that we are going to be okay and just to learn how to handle situations like tonight we're talking about dealing with the holidays. You can follow me on Facebook, Robin Craig, and you can also follow me on Twitter, Robin_Craig. So join me every Tuesday at 10 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. Central, and stick around. I love to stay in the chat room and talk to you guys and catch up and see what everybody's up to. So I love you to pieces. I wish you the best, and thank you so much for spending this hour with me. Love you, and I will be talking to you very soon.